What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you had a good Father's Day as we continue on here with the NBA Finals. Thunder up 3-2 now and one game away from closing this thing out. But still, all the national conversation is about what is happening with teams not in the finals, mainly with the Suns right now and Kevin Durant. And this is just, it's getting really weird. Like, this whole offseason for him is very strange, the number of teams that haven't seemed to be interested that I thought would have been, and the teams that are making moves that don't make much sense. It was reported, a few weeks ago or a few days ago that the Spurs were kind of one of the main teams making a push. Well, now the reports from Shams and from a bunch of people are saying that KD's preferred destination would be San Antonio. He also reportedly is uninterested in going to Minnesota. Not sure why. I think that's a great fit for him. That's one of the teams that I thought would be the best fit for him. And the other team he's looking at, or apparently like his interest in there, is the Rockets. Miami is still apparently off in the distance right now a little bit, but the two Texas teams have a pretty big say in this right now. So I'm going to dive into each of those three teams a little bit, but overarching thought on that decision or the statement that he's interested in playing the Spurs and open to the Rockets and not interested in the Timberwolves tells me something that we kind of already knew about KD, something that's been talked about a lot for him. And he admittedly will say all the time that he is interested in being a better basketball player today than he was yesterday. He's into self-improvement. He's kind of obsessed with basketball. I don't know if he's obsessed with winning. The best opportunity he would have to win right away, because he doesn't have much time left in this league, would be Minnesota. That team is ready to compete and ready to win. And you go there, I mean, it's probably Randall they move off of. But in that situation, that team is ready to try and make something happen. But that's the one team in that mix he said he's not interested in going to. Instead, he wants to go to San Antonio, who is years away, I think, 2-3 years away from being in a situation where they are really competing for a title. But this sure would be a lot of fun. Playing with Chris Paul, playing with Fox, playing with Victor Wembanyama. Probably they would do everything they could to keep Castle as well. That's a fun team. That's a good team. And they're certainly better with KD. But are they better than the Thunder? No. Like, what are they doing in the West? I don't know. Not a lot. Maybe winning a series, maybe 2. Maybe Western Conference Finals as a peak. But, that's about it. So it's a weird situation. It's just like you'd think at this point in his career, he'd want to go to a contender and have a chance to try and win a championship. Now, he got killed for doing that. When he went to Golden State, it was a different situation. It was years ago, leaving a team that had an incredible season in OKC to go to the team that beat you, that had just won, 70 games. Not a great look in a lot of NBA fans' eyes, but it's a little bit different this time around. I think people would be a lot more understanding and kind of okay with it, NBA fans and kind of his legacy. But he really just feels like what he's saying is, I just want to go somewhere and hoop the last few years of being in this league and have a good time and have some fun, which I guess all the power to him, but it's just, you'd think winning would also matter. Because I don't think they're going to be doing that in San Antonio. So the San Antonio piece, we'll start there, I guess, since that is the team he's reportedly interested in. They obviously have some draft capital. They got, the second overall pick in this year's draft. I don't think they're giving that up. They do have the 14th pick in this year's draft from Atlanta. You probably get that one. This is a deep enough draft that you probably get a piece that's eligible or a piece that will help out there. And then they got a bunch of draft swaps and some future firsts. And I mean, they got draft capital to make some moves. I mean, they actually have like a lot of draft capital But a lot of it's further down the road. And by that point, you figure the San Antonio team would be really kind of coming into their own. Victor Wembanyama was going to be the best player in this league in 2 years, probably 3 years. And so they're not going to be a lot of rebound team as long as he's healthy for probably as long as he is there. This is probably the last year that they miss out, and then I think they start to really kind of take off. So a lot of those future picks don't do a ton for you. They become, that's a good fit. I don't think it's a great fit. Does space the court a little bit more, does give them some shooting. And I think that would help out Wembanyama a lot, having just the opportunity of going through shooting drills and practices with KD. And maybe that's what he's really looking at, is just kind of being a mentor and having a good time. And he looks at Wemby and he looks at kind of some of the pieces they have, and he's like, I can get these guys a lot better. I can go there and have fun, just enjoy my time. And maybe there's an element to this that, San Antonio's as small market as about Sacramento, or as small market as you're possibly going to get. What happens there doesn't make the back pages of the papers often. And if he just is tired of being in the limelight, tired of, you see how many people he goes after on Twitter and arguing with all this stuff and having all these reporters. And if you just want to go somewhere where you're off the grid and can just hoop, that is San Antonio. That is San Antonio in a nutshell. And they've had a really, their history has shown that they're able to win with that kind of mentality. It's just, I don't think the timelines are so different. Wemby is so young. Fox is so young. Castle is so young. Their core are guys that need to get reps and get better and build. And you're going to bring in a guy that, it's not like KD is selfish, but he's still going to get you 26, 27. And it's got to come from something. And he's going to get some shots up. And he's just going to take reps away from those guys. And he's going to be retired in 3 years-ish, somewhere around there. Doesn't really bode well for building something for San Antonio. It doesn't make sense on San Antonio's side unless they really just want to get to the postseason and get some experience for some of these younger guys there. But if they really think KD gets them to the point where now they are a contender, I think you could line them up and make an argument against pretty much everybody in the West other than the Thunder, but like at the Thunder, it's not close. And then, so if you're just interested in making the Western Conference Finals, maybe you get lucky. Maybe there's injuries, maybe the other stuff. Maybe that's what they just think. We can put ourselves towards the last four. That's good enough. I don't know. I don't love it for San Antonio. I don't love it for Phoenix as far as the trade assets you're going to get. And I don't really love it for KD. There's some trade assets there, and there's some decent ones. You're going to have to take Harrison Barnes for the contract. You're going to end up having to take, probably Dan Vassell. I mean, which isn't bad. Like, that's not a terrible situation. And maybe you end up having to take like Keldon Johnson, something like that. I mean, they're going to throw some guys at you that are okay. It's just those picks aren't going to have much value. And so what we just saw with Desmond Bane, where the Magic gave up so many of their first round picks, is because they're saying, hey, like, what is the 20th pick in the draft to us? What is the 25th pick? Like, we're going to be good. We're expecting to be good. Those picks aren't going to be anything of quality. Okay, like if you don't have a lottery pick, in most drafts, if you don't have a top 10 pick, it don't really matter. So I don't love it for them. I still think, and I've said from the beginning, that the best situation for the Suns is a trade with the Rockets. I think the best situation for KD would be Minnesota, but I still think Houston is a better situation for him than San Antonio. Houston is physical, they are deep, they are young, and they need a guy that can just score. They got 7, 8 guys that want to play defense and get out and push and are aggressive and strong and physical. And they don't have a real score from the outside. I mean, Fred VanVleet was one of their main options at this point, and he's starting to get over that hill. So I look at that and I'm like, yeah, like you can go there. You complement their weakness. You give them what they need, a guy that can go out there and just fill it up. And I mean, at this point in his career, KD ain't exactly the most physical guy in the world. Well, they can kind of hide him. They got the pieces around him that they can, adequately defend and do all the things and be physical, and he doesn't have to be that guy. He can just, hey, go out there and score. Lower in talent, I get that. Like if you're matching up the rosters of the Spurs and the Rockets, and you're like, all right, we got Victor Wembanyama, they got Sengun, okay, we got Fox, VanVleet. Like that was the thing with the Rockets is they had 9 guys that were all like B- to B players. I don't know if Sengun would give him much more than that. I know he was an all-star, but it was kind of like somebody on that team had to be an all-star. So you're not getting a ton of guys that you can play with that are really going to be stars and kind of help elevate everything when you need them. There is the element of also some of those guys won't even be there because the contracts are going to have to get passed along. So whether that's probably Fred VanVleet in that situation is going to get traded, and you're almost at that point, but Jalen Green, Shepard, Mon Thompson, like Tarizan, like they got some guys on there that if you're the Suns, you would like to get back. If you're KD, you're like, what guys will still be here? And who can I really rely on? Because that was why they got bounced in the first round, despite having, a high seed in the playoffs, was they didn't have guys that could, when push comes to shove at a half-court game, make plays. Not a lot of them on there. KD gives them that, but does KD really want to be the guy that is shouldering all of that load again? I don't know. Doesn't sound like it. But it would be great for the Suns, man, to get their picks back. They got all the trade capital that the Suns want and need right now, which is their own picks that are gone. Sprinkle in a couple of the young pieces, you get the contracts to match with VanVleet. You probably cut them after that. A lot of money off your books. This is the best match for Phoenix as a trade. I think the Rockets would be really happy with it because they need that piece. But I still don't think it makes them a true contender. And so, I don't know why KD would be interested in that. But again, maybe he just wants to hoop. And if that's the case, he likes to hoop with guys that play a certain style. They're kind of non-selfish, and that's why he went to the Warriors. I don't know if they play the style that he'd be looking for. Which brings me to the last team that was kind of in that rotation that reports are he's uninterested in going to, which is Minnesota, which is wild to me because of the 3 teams, this is the best fit for KD. This is where he should want to go if he wants to win right away, because they would have a legit shot at winning a title with him there. Him and Ant is a crazy 1-2 combo. They still have a bunch of wing defenders that are pretty solid coming in. And for his shortcomings, Gobert still does something for you and getting rebounds and defensively, does a great job against certain bigs. And if they can find a way to, maintain their bench in some pieces over there as well, because they got some guys that are solid coming off of the bench, including Naz Reid, who would be if you somehow could trade Gobert and move Naz Reid into your starting lineup and then add KD to that, you're cooking. You're really cooking. But I don't know what's kind of left there. The Conley piece, they would kind of need a point guard because Conley's probably getting ready to retire. All that being said, it feels like that is the best fit for KD to go out and try and win a title. That's the place he says reports are he's not interested in going, which is, again, is just like I don't know how much he really cares about winning anymore. Not in like a. There's some guys that have that, like LaMelo Ball, and some of these guys that have this kind of stigma or this kind of reputation that they don't care about winning, and it's like they care about filling up their own stat sheet and they feel about the money and the looks and all this stuff. There's a few guys like that. That's not what I'm saying about KD. KD just wants to hoop and play basketball and play a fun style of basketball with some guys that he enjoys playing basketball with. But that doesn't necessarily equate to winning basketball or the best situation to go and win, because you can plug him on certain teams and they'd be much more likely to win, but his role would be different. He wants to be able to play like his way and have a good time. It's weird. It's weird to criticize a guy for that. Like, shouldn't that be a big element of it? Like, didn't we just go through 15 years of just destroying players for going to certain teams and formulating like the super teams and being only interested in like winning titles and being like, well, you know, whatever happened to staying in one spot, whatever happened to building teams and kind of doing that process. So would we, and Katie's one of the guys that got destroyed for that. So now would we go the other way and kill him for not doing that? I just think if he was lining up his list of where the best fits are, Minnesota to win, Minnesota would be, you know, right near the top of that list. The Knicks would be right near the top of that list. And the three teams that are reportedly he's kind of interested in, Miami, two Texas teams, those aren't teams that are going to be winning. Not even adding KD. They're better with KD, but like, what are they really going to be doing? Not a lot. It's weird. The whole situation is strange right now, but it sounds like we're getting closer and closer to some sort of resolution, some sort of deal happening, because these conversations are speeding up and up and up. And I hope you got a chance to see the video with Shams where he's in a panel of four guys talking about KD, and one guy mentions that he'd like to see him go to the Spurs, and he looks over to the camera and looks around and has a smirk and has this moment, and he sure looks like he knows some things. And so I'm just saying, if you read between the tea leaves, it looks like Sham knows some things that he can't quite report just yet, but it looks like there's some kind of movement or some interest going on there. I'd like to see them handle this sooner rather than later. Get the draft picks in, get ready for the draft as far as knowing where you're going to be making moves. And kind of clear the decks a little bit, because right now they cleared it with the management, but there's still some toxicity on this roster as far as there's a lot of guys that no one was bought in last year. And so much of that was coaching with Coach Bud, but like it just, there's more guys that need to be shipped around and moved around. And this is a big piece. I mean, Katie's great. I'm not saying it was his fault, but bringing some new young guys, bringing some fresh blood, get some draft picks, and clear the decks a little bit and try and build this thing from the ground up, which is what I've been saying they need to do from the onset. You can rebuild pretty quickly in this league. It hurts, obviously, with the Bradley Beal no trade clause in his contract. But even still, like, you can reformulate this roster relatively quickly, still have Booker in his prime, and have a chance at being relevant 2 years, 3 years from now. So, but it starts with getting draft picks. It starts with building there. And, you know, like everyone knows, like where they are with Apron, like they've got to make a move with KD. They got to move off that contract. They got to find a way to shed some money. So it makes sense there. His interest in what teams he's looking at is odd. The Spurs are odd destination. One in Houston over the Knicks and over the Timberwolves is just odd. But I will say it will be fun. It would be very fun seeing him next to Victor Wembanyama those two 7-footers shooting threes and having Fox and Chris Paul, and like they would be an entertaining team. I just don't know how good they'd be. And it doesn't seem like Katie really cares too much. I don't know. Let me know what you think.